I'm sure you've been paying attention to all this craziness going on right now in the world with GLP-1s and Tirzepatide. And yes, it's on shortage. Yes, it's gone. Yes, it is. The ramifications of that. I wanted to share with you guys my recent coaching community call that I had, just giving them the update of not only what's going on, but just my opinion of the bigger picture and what you guys really need to be paying attention to during your struggles with lasting weight loss and how to make sense of all this craziness going on. Enjoy. Yeah, in case you guys didn't hear, October 2nd on Wednesday was a pretty crazy day in the world of GLP-1 news. So Eli Lilly, or FDA, finally confirmed the shortage. So I made a video on TikTok, and it was funny because I've been following this thing for so long. So the video went viral, but there was a lot of confusion because when I say the national shortage is over, people think that means access is improved, right? So why am I talking about access being no longer a thing? And so we have to understand that with the national shortage of Tirzepatide being officially validated by the FDA to be true, right? Then that means sales of compounded Tirzepatide can no longer happen. So that, I know, that is a bombshell. So trust me when I say I've been trying to reach out to so many people, trying to unravel this and trying to really like, what does it actually mean? What does it actually pan out to be? And we've been talking about this on and off for the past several months. It was a big shock when Eli Lilly came out and they tried to say, hey, we're fine, we can produce, blah, 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 blah. That was their attempt to start the process of saying, hey, this shortage is no longer a thing. And there was a whole bunch of commotion about that, but it didn't mean anything because Eli Lilly's of course they're gonna say that. They're losing money with compounded Tirzepatide sales. But for the FDA to come out finally on October 2nd, that they validate that the national shortage is over, what the FDA is saying is we agree that Eli Lilly, through the production of Mounjaro and Zepbound, which are the pharmaceutical brands, we agree that they can meet the demand of the people. So therefore, compounding pharmacies, you can no longer produce Tirzepatide. The only reason why compounded Tirzepatide was able to be compounded to begin with was because of the national shortage. And that's the part that's important to understand. Now, I'm not saying that makes it all right. No, that's still an awful process. And we know there's money and corporate greed behind all this bullshit. Let's be clear. So at the end of the day, the people suffer. You guys out there suffer. Not you guys as much because we're going to kick ass with FLOA and we have some special stuff to work around that. But for most people out there, yeah, this is horrible news. With a pharmaceutical drug like this, the active ingredient gets allowed with the shortage. And then when the shortage is over, then this is what happens. Now, okay, that happened on October 2nd. So it's been crazy. Many clinics have stopped offering it, removed it from their website. A lot of compounding pharmacies have stopped offering it because technically that's what they're supposed to do. Now, the logistics that I have learned so far is that because one of them is still good. So what I've learned is that 503A compounding pharmacies are supposed to stop immediately, and 503B pharmacies have 60 days. So we have access to a 503B. So we have at least 2 months, from what I understand, to be able to still supply this, and that's it. Although I've heard one of the compounding pharmacies talk about using the medication for different purposes, and I don't know where he's going. Compounding pharmacies, I think, are going to still do what they do, but the attention of the FDA is behind bigger stuff like this. And so I don't think at this point it's going to be like the peptide situation where the compounding pharmacies are like, look, I'm going to roll until the FDA tells me to stop. I don't think that's what we're going to see here. I think after 60 days, we're going to be done. And if I learn something different or new, I will absolutely tell you guys. But as of right now, I don't see compounding pharmacies pushing this one because look how aggressive Eli Lilly's being. Eli Lilly has been sending cease and desist letters to so many people. I didn't get one. A lot of people did. A lot of companies did. A lot of compounding pharmacies did. They're insane. It's crazy to me because that's Eli Lilly, the maker of Tirzepatide. And then you have Novo Nordisk, the maker of semaglutide, which was the original blockbuster GLP-1. And we haven't heard a peep out of Novo Nordisk. I don't know what to even make of that because I have no clue what the dudes in the background are doing for these big companies. But I'm pretty confident semaglutide and Novo Nordisk, now that Eli Lilly set the precedent, they're going to do the same thing because they're losing massive amount of money with compounded semaglutide. So my hunch is it's going to happen to compounded semaglutide too. How quickly, I have no idea because I haven't heard any rumblings from anybody that knows anything with Novo Nordisk. They've been pretty quiet. But why in the world would they not do the same thing that Eli Lilly did now that they watched Eli Lilly do it? And Tirzepatide came after semaglutide, so that's why it's a little bit of a shock. I don't understand why Novo Nordisk hasn't done this, but it's only a matter of time. I already have some information to share with you about what Eli Lilly is trying to do with that. But does anybody have questions about just that so far? I see a couple of comments coming in. It was so funny because the video that I posted went viral, and I guess I should have explained a little bit of how the shortage works. So everybody was so confused. They were like, you just said it was at a shortage and you're saying it's not available. And I was like, you guys don't realize what I'm saying. That the one that you can afford is unavailable. The really expensive one is still there. So if you guys can afford that, great. And of course, there's still insurance coverage, but you guys know how that works. Insurance companies are fighting always tooth and nail to not pay for it. And even if they do pay for it, for now, you don't think they're sitting there in the background, your insurance companies that are paying for this, trying to figure out how they cannot pay for this? It's expensive. Of course, they don't want to pay for it. The moment your medical necessity no longer meets the requirements, BMI, which by the way, I've already seen a couple insurance companies raise the bar of BMI having to be 40. Now insurance companies are saying you have to be morbidly obese. Not obese isn't enough, apparently, for them to pay. You have to be freaking morbidly obese. A couple payers have done this. And so once a payer establishes something like this, the other ones follow suit. So insurance companies are doing what they're doing. And so that's not an option. Seize the opportunity. You guys are here, so you guys are already seizing the opportunity. So that's great. But this message really is for the community outside of you guys. And everything that I'm trying to do is let everybody know, like, you need to take action. You need to jump on this weight loss thing while it's easier. Because I've been helping people lose weight for a really long time now, close to 20 years. And it is never been easier than it has been now with the GLP-1s. It's of course possible without, but it is much harder. So if that doesn't light a fire on someone's ass, I don't know what will. So if you have any loved ones, I strongly recommend you tell them, hey, I know you've been talking about losing weight and you're just loud about it. You need to become serious about it because these things might be, again, not gone, just much more expensive. And for some people, unaffordable, right? That's why I'm talking like they're going to be gone. Does this impact retatrutide? No, we have retatrutide. I do want to talk about what Eli Lilly is trying to do to make retatrutide unaccessible. They're trying to do that, but we have retatrutide right now. Follow the money. I know. Yep. So Janet, we answered that question. We still have it, and we're going to have Tirzepatide for at least 60 more days. Yeah, go ahead, Jessica. I'm stocking up myself. Yeah. Okay. So I know I've been pretty light with you guys in the past because I hate being that person that says stock up before, but now I would think stock up. It's for sure. It's law. Like this is, and like I said, the peptides is law too, but the peptide thing, it's not as, like the compounding pharmacies are not as scared as the FDA actually imposing the law. But with the amount of attention that GLP-1 medications have, I think FDA is going to feel the pressure from Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly is suing the FDA, which I'll tell you about that in a bit. I'll tell you that. They're really trying to take care of their shareholders. Wild for sure. But Tony says, I just got my last vial. I looked at the company I was working with and they took it down today. Yeah, this is no joke. All the 503A pharmacies need to stop immediately. Like I said, as of Wednesday. But the 503B ones, which there's not that many, have 60 days.
How do we go about ordering the retatrutide and some more Tirzepatide through you?
Yeah, we can get you booked up with Ceci. Will actually opened up slots for this weekend because of this. So Will has some, yeah, he opened up some availability for this weekend, so we can get you guys on a call with Will and he can get you guys rolling.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, of course.
Dawn has her hand raised.
Yes, Dawn, go for it.
From a stocking up perspective, how long is it good for, right? Because I have some and I totally maintenance microdosing type of thing, but how long does it last?
Yeah, the compounding pharmacies, pharmacists will tell me if you keep it in the fridge and you keep it there, you got several months, like 3 months of like good, pure stability. And then after 3 months, there starts to be some degradation, but the degradation's slow. And degradation doesn't mean any harm. It just means slightly less potency. So in theory, you could slightly increase the dose on it a little bit. Obviously, I can't give you guys the medical advice and tell you that's okay. The best use dates are what they say. Many people do this. They're intentionally buying beyond the best use date. And the compounding pharmacies know that, and they're telling you, hey, it's good. But if you call me and you ask me, I'm going to tell you to dispose of it beyond the best use date because that's what they have to say. That's
Sure.
that's just
So
how
we
this
for sure have access to it for 60 days. So if I'm good now, I could wait till 45 days and then stock up then and be okay.
From what I've read, the 503B pharmacies have 60 days. I can't control, and I haven't, this is all so new, right? All I know is the 503B pharmacies have 60 days. Now, I have not been able to hear from the pharmacy that I'm dealing with that is still comfortable. If they're like, yes, we're going to push it to 60 days, I haven't even had a chance to have that conversation yet. One of them is literally hosting a webinar so that he could talk to a few of us doctors that are doing bigger volume with them so they can give us a better idea of what's going on. Yeah, I'm definitely not saying, guys, buy it this weekend because I think it's gone Monday, but that's your safest play.
Be
And that's
prepared.
why Will opened up his slots. I think it should be 60 days, but I just don't have any certainty. Nobody knew that was coming Wednesday.
I just would hate to do it right now because I literally am just barely started a bottle.
I think it's reasonable to say 2 weeks, you're probably going to be fine. But if I definitely hear something that says, hey, this is going to go soon,
You'll let us
I'll
know.
let you know.
Perfect. That works. Thank you.
Cool. Let's see. If we were on Tirzepatide, are there side effects from switching to semaglutide? So semaglutide, and I always say this, look, don't poo semaglutide. Like semaglutide is still powerful, but yeah, Tirzepatide is nicer. Tirzepatide is the upgrade, right? So with the upgrade, Tirzepatide gets a little bit better results, and it's got a little bit of a lower side effect profile. So does that mean you're going to get wrecked by side effects when you go to semaglutide? No, especially because we're going to tell you don't try to dose for dose it. Like if you're on 5 with Tirzepatide, don't try to go on 0.5 or 0.75, which would be the equivalent dose. But I would tell you to go back to the starter dose and treat it like a fresh medication. Even though Tirzepatide hits the same receptors, I have seen people with either switch sometimes still get wrecked, even though the chances I think are less likely that you get hit with side effects because you were on one of them. I still seen it happen.
I have one more question. So I'm
No,
fairly,
yeah,
obviously, I haven't even started it yet, but I received it. So I don't know much about it. Is it something that you do have to take for the rest of your life? Your goal is to get us off and just maybe maintain here and there. Is that correct? That's basically the goal.
Yes.
But is there ever a point you're off so that this won't concern any of us once we're all through the program? We could be like, okay, I guess we'll just have to be a little more strict when we're on vacation or something. Like once you've reached, how does that look?
Yeah, so I think that's the most challenging, nuanced, exciting, because I love talking about it, and difficult question to answer because some very much more knowledgeable people than me would say something completely different. So your board certified obesity specialists will tell you this is a chronic irreversible disease, and so you're going to need the medication for the rest of your life. And there's something to be said about that if you are a person that's starting this journey and you are that far down the path, you are that obese, you are that insulin resistant, you are that diabetic. I still disagree with that notion that it's a chronic irreversible disease, but I can understand where they're coming from, people in that category, because you are that far down. And from their limited viewpoint of what they can do with their tools, they've never seen the stuff that I've seen because of what I do, right? And so I totally know where they're coming from. And more importantly than what they've seen, the literature. The literature is what we're supposed to rely on. And look, not to tangent too much, but literature and science is only as good as the ethics behind what's being chosen to what is being studied. You're so focused on like the research perspective, which you should. I'm never saying to invalidate research, but you have to also compare it with the fact that this shit is so skewed and there's so much money behind the scenes of what you are studied and what is not being studied. We're not even talking about manipulation of the results, which is a whole nother conversation, which many pharmaceutical companies have been found flat out guilty of manipulating results. And this is available. Go Google it. It's right there on Wikipedia, like flat out fraudulent changes in research. Did they ever go to jail? No.
Wow.
Any small company does that, jail time. as they should be, because you killed people by messing with the results, but they don't go to jail. Like, how's that possible? It's right in front of our face. But people are really very intelligent. Doctors are very naive to that. I think it's a tough pill to swallow when you spend a chunk of your life trying to go to school and doing, like, you want to do good and you want to help people, and you come out and you realize the system itself is inherently unethical. That's a tough pill to swallow. And so I get where I don't even get mad at doctors anymore. And I can understand why it's so hard for them to see what I see. I'm a DC, so I went to a whole different education of like holistic and blah, 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 blah. There are a few MDs that understand what I understand, but it's tough to find. So going back to your question, Jessica, about what's it look like for the future, you ask them, that's what they say. Now, for you and many people, there are people that start my program both in that category, which we have success with, and then this category, which is not that far gone, somewhat overweight, somewhat insulin resistant, somewhat metabolically dysfunctional. And so for people in that category, I think it's even, I know it's much easier for me to say, hey, yeah, we're going to get you off the medication. We're going to get you stable without a doubt. And it's when I'm talking to people in this category that I'm like, hey, we're still going to do this. Just, it's not a walk in the park. And I think everybody in this category probably understands that, but that's where I can easily just answer your question and just say, yeah, it's not a problem, but I want you to understand why you might go somewhere else and be told something completely different.
Yep.
And I want you to be able to have some confidence, not just you, Jessica, but I'm talking to everybody here. You guys signed up, and that means you believe and trust me. But what we're doing is thought impossible. And when it's thought impossible, there comes the opposing, antagonistic, and downright, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. You're lying to people, because they don't, again, get to see the result that I see every single day. But that answers your question, Jessica?
Yeah, that's super. Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Of course.
It's hopeful. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Carolyn. Okay. So I don't see any questions right now. So with the retatrutide thing, just to what I was able to learn was that, so Eli Lilly is suing the FDA because Eli Lilly wanted to classify retatrutide as a biologic and not a drug. Now, having as much experience as I do in the regenerative medicine space and understanding what a biologic is, I don't even understand how they could rationalize that, but I'm not a biological scientist. And so I'm sure they have some scientists that could teach me a thing or two as to why they're felt validated. The FDA said, no, it's not a biologic. And so the FDA denied that, right? Because that's how that works. They apply and the FDA approves. So that was interesting to see the FDA basically do something against Eli Lilly, because I always subscribe to the notion that they're all working together and they have dinner together every couple of weeks. I don't know how that works, but I feel pretty confident there's some sort of connection. And so Eli Lilly decided to sue the FDA because they disagree. So I don't even know who gets to be the arbiter of that battle. Like, how does that work? You have the FDA trying to prove their point in some sort of court of law. Who gets to appoint the doctors on that? It seems really interesting, and I'm actually really fascinated to study that and try to make sense of that. But that's what's happening. And guess what I learned, right? Because I'm like, why are they making such a big fuss about calling it a biologic? Here's the deal. If they can get away with calling it a biologic, what that means is that if it does go on shortage, there's no compounding pharmacies that can make it. If you're watching these clips from my coaching calls and wishing you can be part of the team, I'll put a link in the description, but we have thousands of individuals who are kicking ass using microdose intermittent use protocols and implementing sustainable lifestyle strategies, guys. Click that link, fill out your information. Now, back to the show. For 12 years, they have complete control over it, and a shortage doesn't mean anything as far as compounding pharmacies being able to make it. So if that doesn't give you guys an idea of the people that you're dealing with and the people that are on the other side, to me, that was just, I've seen a lot. They care more about their bottom line than the millions of people that are going to suffer when retatrutide's not available. Mm-hmm. It's going to be in a shortage. I know it will. Everyone has so far, and they don't care. They want to keep it in their pocket. It's their product. Only the rich can afford it, and that's it. So anyways, what does that mean for retatrutide now? We're fine. That doesn't mean anything as far as buy retatrutide now. That's just down the line, down the pipeline. that if it does get designated as a biologic, then retatrutide access is going to be very questionable too. And we already said semaglutide is going to be probably following the thing as tirzepatide. Now there's all these other compounding. There's several more GLP-1 meds in the pipeline though. So I don't know what that means when we're going to have 8 different options in 3 to 5 years. I have no idea what that means. Does that change things? Does that mean I have no clue. This is all fascinating to me. And it brings me back to my original opinion that I've always said. The safest play, guys, is to achieve lasting weight loss and develop in medication independence. That's the safest play. Then you're not so stressed out, because even if you needed a microdose and now you don't have access to your microdose, that's not as much of a shock as being stuck on 5 or 7.5, for example, and then losing that. That's a huge shock. And that's where people basically lose all their results, more or less. Just using that for fuel, if anybody here needs that fuel to stay motivated and to kick as much ass as you possibly can. Blair, are you saying we can buy? Yeah, you can buy retatrutide from me now, Blair. It's expensive. Retatrutide is expensive. I do think, though, in the next couple months, the prices of retatrutide will come down, I think, because everyone's going to be demanding retatrutide now that tirzepatide is gone. Don't know how quickly that's going to happen. That's that's just my business logic. Although you can argue that the prices go up because everybody wants it. So it's really interesting. Yes, retatrutide is the triple agonist. So semaglutide is GLP-1, tirzepatide is GLP-1 and GIP, and then retatrutide is the triple GLP, GIP, and it's a glucagon receptor blocker. So what that's going to do is that's going to block the levels of glucagon, which inevitably produces a similar result. Glucagon is a hormone that raises blood sugar. And so by blocking activity of glucagon, I think it's decreasing the actual levels of glucagon. That's going to have effect of the metformin. That's what metformin does. And you have a literal metformin-ish like effect stacked with tirzepatide. That's what retatrutide does. So yeah, sounds really awesome, right? Sounds pretty cool. And I think like tirzepatide was to semaglutide, retatrutide is probably to a certain extent even better than tirzepatide. Can you stack small doses of retatrutide with smaller doses of tirzepatide? I've seen a lot of people talking about this. And I know a lot of people are doing this from sources from people that I semi-respect, but disagree with them just making up protocols, I feel, and stuff that I think could be dangerous. I personally just don't like the idea of stacking them. Maybe it's just me being a little more conservative. In my opinion, it becomes a little bit harder to control, a little bit easier to overdose. Obviously, if you're doing a super tiny dose of both, then I guess you're probably safe, but why? I don't see the advantage of doing that. To the people that are not doing my protocol and just taking that, maybe the combo gives them some advantage. For us, we're doing the lifestyle, right? We're doing flow. And if you're doing flow, you just need something to give you control over your diet. You just need something to get you less fixated on food so that you can execute the flow protocol. And so just take a little bit more of the one you're on, to me, just seems like a safer and more controllable play rather than trying to come up with these weird combos. I get it. People are talking about it and they're saying, oh, it works so much better. But remember, when they're saying that, they're not doing flow. They're doing whatever they're doing, which might be decent, but it ain't flow. That's for sure. Is retatrutide better for everybody or certain people? I think it would be safe to say at this point, tirzepatide is, I guess it depends on what you mean by better, Blair.
Yeah. So what I mean by that, can you hear me?
Yes.
So what I meant by that, how it's the triple agonist and it does this and this. Is it better across the board, or like certain people that need that blood sugar thing? You know what I mean? Does that mean that it's better for that, or across the board it's going to be better? Or hard to say, because such is everything.
I think it's hard to say. It hasn't passed phase 3 clinical trials. So there's a lot of people like scared and so worried about the fact that it hasn't passed phase 3 clinical trials. And I'm like, you realize peptide therapies haven't had a phase 1 and they're awesome. Of course, ideal scenario for any drug would be you'd want phase 3 clinical trials to pass. But remember, when we're talking about GLP-1 medications, we're talking about these weird, Dr. Tina Moore, who's the closest to me in terms of thought process, calls them peptides flat out. She says they're peptides with a little modification. And I'm like, wow, that's totally a different flow of how to look at them. I consider them like peptide drugs because I don't consider the modification that we're doing to them tiny. The modification that we're doing, just so you guys know, to these GLP-1 peptides, they are naturally occurring incretin hormones. And just so you know, the word hormone and peptide gets used interchangeably. I have a podcast with one of my mentors, the guy that I refer to for functional med, Dr. Dan. But yeah, I don't think the modification to these naturally occurring things were I would consider small. When you eat food naturally, incretin hormones are released and they last and they stimulate for seconds to maybe 1 or 2 minutes, depending on certain variables, but very small amount, like 2 minutes tops. So 2 minutes of stimulation compared to a week. That's a massive increase if we're talking about just the actual physical change of the molecule is a tiny little thing. I'm not a scientist, but they add an ester to it or they add some sort of compound to it to slow the breakdown. So it just lasts a lot longer. It doesn't break down as nearly as fast. 7 days versus 2 minutes. So that modification might be small in a scientific setting, but the ramifications of that is it lasts seven days compared to 2 minutes. So that's why I don't fully agree with Dr. Tina Moore when she says it's a tiny little change. But I get where she's coming from. That you can't call these drugs. And that I agree with. You can't call these a drug. And me and her both agree, look, drugs are not ideal. They're not optimal, but sometimes you need them. Sometimes you need a little diabetic medication if your blood sugar is out of control, because if you don't take that medication, that's going to bring your blood sugar down fast. You will die. Same thing with blood pressure and same thing with statins. So if you need them on the short term, but they're not optimal long term. And so me and her completely agree on that. And most naturopathic, holistic doctors agree with that notion. It's just some of them are always just never use it. And then me and her are like, hey, let's use it when you need it, but then let's have a plan to get off. Just again, she's calling them peptides with a small modification, and I'm calling them peptide drugs. I call them peptide drugs, some sort of quasi in the middle thing where basically not as bad as a drug, still probably not optimal to just blast your receptors like that all the time and assume there's no consequence. I don't know about that, because if there was truly no consequence, then we wouldn't see pancreatitis, biliary disease, gastroparesis, although those are very rare, as you guys know, they can happen. And so to me, something that can cause that, something that should be respected. Right now, again, that's with massive doses. We're doing microdoses, so microdoses much safer.
Is it like, how much more expensive is it?
Let me see. I got it written down.
And that one's still safe to be compounded right now?
Retatrutide is, yeah, there's no immediate timeline that's going to be gone the way Tirzepatide is going to be gone for now.
Do you have clients that are on it right now, and how are they doing?
A handful. I'm on it myself just to see if I notice
Have
it.
you noticed a difference?
No different than Tirzepatide. It felt like Tirzepatide to me. Definitely
Yeah.
can't say, oh, I noticed a difference from Tirzepatide. I didn't. I was like, okay, this feels like Tirzepatide. But I can tell a difference between Tirzepatide
Yep.
and semaglutide. So that I can feel a difference between, but I couldn't feel a difference between, it didn't feel better, it didn't feel worse. And
Okay.
but where I'm at, guys, is I'm on a microdose that I use every 2 to 3 weeks. Depends.
Right.
Do you use that for the rest of your life, or just because you're doing something to try it out?
Both. To try it out, I always try it out as much as I can for you, just so I can have more confidence behind what I'm saying. Remember, I'm learning about my body too, and I struggled with my own weight management for a long time. And so I joke around with my fiance because I'm talking about this all the time, and she looks at me if I haven't had the injection for 5 weeks, and she's like, "You look like you're eating like a different person." So it's interesting when she said that to me, because then I start paying attention to it, and I'm like, that's interesting. So now, has it caused any issues where I'm massively gaining weight? No, I'm also trying to maintain a much leaner physique than what I'm trying to get most of you guys to. We're in the program of trying to go from overweight to just healthy. You could also do what we're doing with the FLOA protocol to get to optimal and lean and shredded if you're a guy, or athletic and toned if you're a lady. And you can still do a lot of the principles of flow. It just, you manipulate them, and you need a little bit more support, right? Because when you start getting leaner, it starts getting harder. Feel very confident that if I was just trying to maintain a healthy percentage, that I wouldn't need any support. But since I am maintaining a leaner physique, I do think at this point, microdosing is probably the way that I would need to do it in order to stay as lean as I am now. Am I going to do that? I don't know. How could anybody make a decision that's in the future, right? I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly. I think it depends on what new literature comes out and tells us, right? I think it's important to be open to change and open to what you learn. I certainly would stop in a heartbeat if I ever had any concern about it. All right.
I have a question. So say we just got like a refill on ours, if we got it from somebody else in reference to stocking up, like how does that work as far, I got my month supply. Can I get more? Is that allowed? Or do you have to wait until your refill? Would I be able to then order from you?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any like, no, there's not. No, you could. Yeah, there's not going to be a
Okay.
discussion like, because I don't think clinics are able to know what people are doing if they're ordering from multiple sources. There's
Yeah,
no
I just
database.
wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how that works, just in the thoughts of possibly getting an extra bottle, just if in case something happens.
Yeah, I think that if you're ordering, so the clinician writes the dose that you're on, and then the pharmacy has to respect what the medical notes are saying, that the medical recording says you're on. That's the maximum that because then they just do math, right? If you're on 5, then I can only for 6 months send this much, right? And so they are limited to that. And we're always trying to keep things exactly spot on with what you're doing. But if you got a little supply from someone else and then you got a supply from us, as far as I know, that should be fine.
And then we contact Will to set something like that up
Yeah, you can reach out
if
to
we
him
wanted
directly.
Tirzepatide or retatrutide.
Yep. You can reach out to him directly or even the FLOA hotline, whoever
I
responds to
can
you.
be,
Did you see his blocks already, says he?
yeah, and I just got Miss Janet scheduled for tomorrow. So we have some openings, Miss Blair. I can get you scheduled.
Okay, cool. Retatrutide for 16 milligrams, 1100, and for 32 milligram bottle is 1760.
Holy crap. Now, what does that mean?
What
Like
was
when you
that?
say those milligrams, what is
2 milligrams per
like,
week,
yeah.
from what I've seen and understand, about 2 milligrams is probably equivalent to maybe somewhere in between 3 to 5.
So you're saying like whatever milligram you said. So there's that many dosages of 2 milligrams in that.
Yeah, 60
Oh.
milligram would just be 8 doses of the 2.
Okay.
How much were those again?
1100 for a 16 milligram bottle and 1760 for a 32
And
milligram.
that's compounding prices.
Yes. People can always go online to a research company.
Only through compounding right now.
Yeah.
That's why it's more expensive too, but it's new.
I think it's the fact that it's triple. I think that it's new. And I would imagine, like I said, in a couple of months, maybe the price goes down, but maybe it goes up. It could be one or the other. It's supply and demand, right? Are they able to supply it fast enough to meet the demand? We know demand's going to go up, which is usually not favorable for price unless it causes the supply to somehow speed up faster. There's a lot of variables that I don't have any control over.
So we possibly have 60 days. If we're going to get more or stock up, we should just stick with our Tirzepatide probably for now.
Correct. And my semaglutide prices went down, guys, just so you know. That's been across the board for a lot of companies.
Yeah, I've
So
seen that.
semaglutide, and I have better prices than Amble for semaglutide, just so you guys know. So I can get you
Really?
guys, I can get you guys for 10 milligrams, 600, for 15 milligrams, 780. That is significantly cheaper when you're in that moderate dosing. The thing that Amble has is that if you're on the maximum dose, they don't spike their price up. So if you're on a maximum dose, they still have better pricing, but a lot of you guys are not on the maximum dose because you're doing my protocol. So when you're on that mid to lower range, this bottle is actually a much better price than what you're going to pay.
Semaglutide was like one price no matter what the dosage, but the Tirzepatide was like low dose is one price, and then anything above 5 milligrams is more. But they go through only by the month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas you're going by milligrams per bottle, which depends on what dose you are, how long that's going to last you.
They actually have 2 tiers for their sema now because they went down their
Oh,
pricing. Like basically they took the entire spectrum and said, if you're on the lower half, slightly lower. If you're on the higher half, slightly higher. I love the model. It's phenomenal for just keeping things super simple because now
yeah,
with me,
it's just they don't have the support. That's why we need you.
But if you tell me what dose you would take, we could absolutely help you. Will can help you
Okay.
with that math. I know most of you guys are going to be, if we're talking Tirzepatide, you're going to be 2.5, 5, or 7.5. Unless you came to me on a higher dose, that's a separate thing. But and same thing for the semaglutide. Most of you guys, with the exception of coming to me already on the higher dose, usually you're on the 0.25, 0.5, 1, and maybe 1.5 at the highest. That's what
Yeah,
I've
I
been-
know those girls too. Kelly and Alexis and Mama Jens and all them.
Yeah, I didn't say anything, but she's amazing, and we'll see what happens. But
Yep.
charge nurse Kelly, you know her too, or Carla, charge nurse.
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I know Alexis the most, but the other ones I know the names. You know what I mean?
Ambul's 503A. So they're donezo with their Tirzepatide. That's crazy.
It's gone.
And so they were supplying a big chunk of people Tirzepatide. So if you guys, just so you guys know, I do have affiliate deals and can help you guys out as much as I can. So if you know any of those people that are like shocked from Tirzepatide from Amble, we still have it.
Mm-hmm.
I got mine filled today. That's good. That's good. I would imagine if I was Amble and I know I have to stop now, they're probably still going to ramp down.
They're not taking any new customers. They took it off the website. But if you're an existing customer, it seems like people's orders are still going through. Like I had put in my refill like last weekend and I wasn't sure. It went to pharmacy, but it hadn't shipped. And so yesterday I got the notification that it shipped. But people have put in orders after that, and it seems like they're going through. So I don't know at what point they're going to cut off. I know that the girls were saying that they were they were talking to the lawyers and all that and see how things are going to go, but they took it off the website and no new customers.
Truth be told, just what there's a future where I could see a company like Amble trying to partner with me to do their coaching.
That would be because they don't have that part.
Nobody does. And I know that people are starting to realize that's what they need to do. I know Amble is working on trying to get it. Anybody like you guys that are grandfathered into my community, I will always do my best to take care of you guys. Being patient advocates and working with you guys and being like a person that's outside of the program that you can lean on and talk to. That's a role that I've been training Will on to work towards that. So please let me know if you get a different vibe, because that's what I'm intending for you to have. So yeah, he's there to be an advocate for you, answer your questions, make suggestions and recommendations, but ultimately, yeah, it should be a pleasant experience whether you're ready to buy now or not. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, then you guys are gonna wanna check this one out. I take a deep dive into fasting and overall lasting weight loss strategies utilizing these GLP-1 medications in the best format, microdosing intermittent usage. Check that out, guys. We'll see you later.